The architect of Day One, the full success story of Jeff Bezos. Introduction. The philosophy of the long-term success is rarely a straight line. For Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, success was not built on a single lucky break or a flash of inspiration. It was built on a foundation of stubbornness on vision and flexibility on details. To understand how a man went from packing books on his knees in a garage to building a trillion-dollar empire and launching rockets into space, we must look at the psychological framework that guided every decision he ever made. This is the story of a man who refused to live in Day 2. Chapter 1, The Texas Ranch and the Screwdriver. The story begins not in a boardroom, but on a 25,000-acre ranch in Cotulla, Texas. As a young boy, Jeff Bezos spent his summers with his grandfather, Lawrence Preston Gies, whom he called Pop. Pop was a retired director for the Atomic Energy Commission, and he taught Jeff the most valuable lesson of his life: self-reliance. On the ranch, if a tractor broke, they didn't call a mechanic, they fixed it. If a windmill was down, they repaired it. Jeff once watched his grandfather perform surgery on a crippled bull. This environment fostered a builder mindset. By the age of 12, Jeff was already experimenting with technology, creating an electric alarm to keep his younger siblings out of his room and turning his parents' garage into a laboratory for science projects. He was a straight-A student, eventually graduating as the valedictorian of his high school and moving on to Princeton University to study physics. However, he soon realized that there were people in the physics department far more brilliant than he was. Displaying an early sign of his pragmatic nature, he switched his major to computer science and electrical engineering, a field where he felt his hard work could yield more tangible results. Chapter 2, The 2,300% Statistic and the Crossroads. By the early 1990s, Bezos was a golden boy on Wall Street. He worked for D.E. Shaw & Company, a quantitative hedge fund that used complex algorithms to trade stocks. At 30, he was already a senior vice president, earning a massive salary and living a comfortable life in New York City. In 1994, while researching the future of the internet, he came across a statistic that changed the course of history. Internet usage was growing at 2,300% per year. Bezos knew that nothing in the physical world grows that fast. He realized that a tidal wave was coming, and he had to decide whether to surf it or watch from the shore. He went to his boss, David Shaw, and told him he wanted to start an online bookstore. Shaw took him for a long walk in Central Park and said, "This sounds like a great idea for someone who doesn't already have a good job." To make the decision, Bezos used what he called the regret minimization framework. He projected himself forward to age 80. He asked, "When I am 80, will I regret leaving this Wall Street bonus? No. Will I regret missing the birth of the internet? Yes." With that clarity, he quit his job. He and his wife, Mackenzie, packed their belongings and drove across the country to Seattle. While Mackenzie drove, Jeff sat in the passenger seat, typing his business plan on a laptop. Chapter 3, The Garage Years and the Door Desks. Amazon.com, originally named Cadabra, launched in July 1995 from a garage in Bellevue, Washington. Bezos chose books as his first product because there were over 3 million titles in print worldwide, far more than any physical bookstore like Barnes & Noble could ever stock. He called it Earth's biggest bookstore. The early days were far from glamorous. The company was incredibly lean. Bezos famously bought wooden doors from Home Depot, sawed off the ends, and attached 4x4s to make desks. To this day, the door desk is a symbol of Amazon's culture of frugality. In the first month, Amazon sold books to people in all 50 states and 45 different countries. Bezos and his early employees, and even his parents, spent their nights in the garage, packing books on their hands and knees on the hard concrete floor. It wasn't until a year later that someone suggested they buy packing tables, an idea Bezos later called the smartest thing he'd ever heard. Chapter 4, The dot-com Crash and the Near-Death Experience. In 1997, Amazon went public at $18 per share. By 1999, Bezos was Time magazine's Person of the Year. he was a billionaire on paper, and the everything store was beginning to take shape. Then came the year 2000. The dot-com bubble burst. Investors who had been throwing money at any company with a .com suffix suddenly panicked. Amazon's stock price plummeted from a peak of $106 to a low of $6. The media began writing "Amazon Toast" headlines, predicting the company would run out of cash and go bankrupt. This is where Bezos's leadership truly shone. While the market was screaming, he stayed focused on the internal metrics. He saw that customer growth was still rising, the cost of shipping was falling, and brand loyalty was strengthening. He famously told his employees, "When the stock is up 30% in a month, don't feel 30% smarter. Because when the stock is down 30%, you won't want to feel 30% dumber." He transitioned the company from a growth at all costs model to a free cash flow model. He cut costs, optimized the warehouses, and focused on the long term. Because Amazon provided real value, low prices and fast shipping, it survived while competitors like Pets.com vanished. Chapter 5: The Flywheel and the Three Pillars. As Amazon emerged from the wreckage of the dot-com crash, Bezos introduced a concept called the flywheel. The logic was simple: if Amazon lowered prices, it would attract more customers. More customers would attract more third-party sellers. More sellers would provide a larger selection. A larger selection and higher volume would allow Amazon to negotiate better deals with shipping companies, further lowering costs and prices. Once you get the flywheel spinning, it creates its own momentum. From this flywheel, Bezos built the three pillars of Amazon: Marketplace, letting other people sell on Amazon's website; Prime, a subscription service for fast, free shipping that turned casual shoppers into power users; AWS, Amazon Web Services. This was perhaps the most brilliant pivot in business history. Amazon realized they were very good at building servers and data centers. They decided to rent that infrastructure to other companies. Today, AWS powers Netflix, NASA, and millions of other entities. It is the most profitable part of the Amazon empire. Chapter 6: The Day One Mentality and Leadership. Bezos managed Amazon through a set of 16 leadership principles. Two of the most famous are customer obsession and invent and wonder. He created a culture where PowerPoint presentations were banned. Instead, executives had to write 6-page memos in narrative form. Meetings would start with 20 minutes of silence as everyone read the memo. Bezos believed that PowerPoint is easy for the presenter but hard for the audience, whereas a well-written memo forced the creator to think deeply and clearly. He also championed the two-pizza team rule. No team should be so large that it cannot be fed by two large pizzas. This kept the company nimble and prevented the day two bureaucracy that kills large corporations. To Bezos, day one is the stage of a company where it is hungry, innovative, and focused on the customer. Day 2 inches is stasis, followed by irrelevance, followed by an excruciating decline, followed by death. His office building at Amazon HQ was literally named Day 1 to remind everyone of this mission. Chapter 7: The Final Frontier and the Legacy. In 2021, Jeff Bezos stepped down as CEO of Amazon to become executive chairman. He shifted his focus to his lifelong passion, Blue Origin. As a child, he had told his teachers he wanted to build a future where millions of people lived and worked in space. While critics argue about the wealth of billionaires, Bezos views Blue Origin as the most important work of his life. He believes that to save the Earth, we must move heavy industry into space and turn the Earth into a residential zone. His motto for Blue Origin is Gradatum Ferociter, Latin for step by step, ferociously. It perfectly encapsulates his entire life. Have a massive, ferocious vision, but execute it one disciplined step at a time. Conclusion: what we can learn the success of Jeff Bezos teaches is that clarity of thought is a superpower. He didn't succeed because he was the best coder or the best salesman. He succeeded because he had the courage to be misunderstood for long periods of time. He was willing to be laughed at for selling books online, and he was willing to be criticized for losing money while he built the world's most advanced logistics network. Bezos proves that if you focus on the customer, think in decades rather than quarters, and maintain the day one spirit, you can build something that changes the world. As he often said in his annual shareholder letters, it is still day one. Tips for delivery: if using for a speech, minutes 0 to 5. Keep the energy high and storytelling focused, the Texas ranch and the garage. Minutes 5 to 15. Use a more serious, analytical tone when discussing the dot-com crash and the flywheel. This is the meat of the business lesson. Minutes 15 to 20. Focus on the leadership principles. This section should feel like you are giving the audience a peek behind the curtain. Minutes 20 to 25. End with an inspiring, visionary tone regarding space and the day one philosophy.